You want him to take the bottle away, or?
To like just never, I never want to feel this sick again or whatever.
Oh, I see. And you think, Lord, have mercy on me.
Please, yeah. And I did not believe I was an atheist, or what I called myself that. So now that you mention it, yeah, I guess I have, in a weird way.
I've come to realize that all Christians are atheists and don't know it. You can overcome being an atheist, but all Christians are atheists. Not just atheists alone, but we'll get to that. That's another story. So you don't know if God has said mercy to you.
Y'all know all the times I've called Christians secularists and materialists. Well, this is basically the same thing what Jesse just said. Atheist Christians, and that's a good way to put it as well, who don't really believe in God. They believe in the Bible, they believe in the statues, they believe in the symbolism rather than worshiping God directly. They're essentially atheists because they don't really, and belief's not the right word. They say they believe, but they don't believe. It's like a notion to them. And I think it's amazing that every time I'm talking about something, let's say during the week, either on YouTube or with people in person, Jesse will end up bringing it up. Even the things that I haven't documented on YouTube. The last video I did, one of the last videos I did where Jesse mentions that Jesus' times are no different than ours. And I heavily suggest that Jesus was dealing with the same crookedness. He was dealing with humanity and their mess, their walk-in trauma. And we're going through the same thing, the exact same thing. We're acting out the mythology, the mythos.
And any ideas about God and Christ would be just an idea. It's not a knowing. But we can know God. We don't just have to have a belief. A belief doesn't work. Everybody say they believe in God, right? But yet they're miserable. We want to know Him, right. And we can know Him. And that, no one can take that away.
There's another instance where I was talking to my coworker about the beginning of Matthew, where Jesus' disciples don't understand his parables and his metaphors, but and he ends up calling them idiots because he has to explain the parables every time. And he calls them dopes, he calls them idiots in so many words. And a few days later, Sunday service, I'm listening to the Sunday service, and Jesse mentions that Jesus' disciples were, I'm paraphrasing here, but they're basically idiots. They're stooges. They just follow him around because they think he's God. But they don't understand his parables. And it's so funny because I'm reading through Matthew and I'm like, yeah, I get that immediately. Maybe because I heard it before and, that's not fair. But these metaphors are deep. But without really getting into it, it's like this keeps happening where I'm talking about something and it gets brought up a few days later by somebody else. And I'll go ahead and try to find the clip and I'll insert it into this video. I think that's all I have to say, guys. Have a nice day.
Until the anger left. And I realized I'm not making myself think these things. I'm not making myself feel this way. Who is this? Who is you?
And also, I mean, to the point that we always constantly make here at church, is to not have anger. Jesus was not angry.
That's right.
Judas betrayed him and he still loved him. He kissed him goodbye. We're supposed to love our enemies.
And the disciple was a mess. And even when they were following Jesus, they was a mess, but he still loved them.
Yep.
He never took it personal. But he worked with them because he had love.
Yep. And without Jesus, we wouldn't have the Holy Spirit, who is, what comes to us through God. So, I mean, like, that, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like absolutely, yes, he helped every single person.
Amazing. Thank you. Hate want to respond to.
So I try to forgive people for
You forgive people?
Yes.
So he helped you in the area of forgiveness?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now.
now?
Yeah.
Before you wouldn't forgive?
No, not at all.
What was it like not to forgive? I know what that's like. I used to be the same way, but what was it like for you living a life of unforgiveness?
You know, I thought it made me human. I thought it actually made me a man to be, to a certain extent. I thought it made me a man.
Well,
and
yes.
I took pride in it.
You took
I
pride,
took pride in
yeah.
it, yes. But then I saw that how it was affecting me, and my eyes were kind of open, so I've let that go.
Amazing. Interesting. All right. What the?
We don't need to be blind hash.
Jesus Christ was a perfect, absolutely perfect example for all of us, for those who will receive it. But the problem is we have been worshiping him in idea instead of spirit. He said that we should worship him in spirit. And we've not been doing that. And we've been doing it in idea, and all of our ideas have been wrong about him. We've been in those ideas of what we've been taught and what we feel. We've been thinking that, oh, my idea about Jesus, I love him. He loved me. Thank God he died for me. But it did nothing for us because it was an idea and not in spirit. And so the one thing I realized that Jesus did that I didn't know before is that everything that any of us have to go through, he went through it, and he was a perfect example of how to deal with nasty people, angry people, mean people, backbiting people, jealous and envy and strife. And the way he dealt with that, even with the disciples tripping, the way he dealt with it, it's like what this young lady said. He gave it no thought to the devil at all. When the devil tried to tempt him, he did not even, when people tried to gossip with him, he did not give it any room at all. That's that living example of what we're going through now. He resists the devil by not participating with the devil, by not arguing with the devil, by not fighting with the devil, and just let the devil have his way, because the devil had no power anyway. If he couldn't pull you into his world, he couldn't even touch you. And if you know, that's what evil people try, and we live in an evil, nasty world now. They are constantly trying to pull you into their hell. Angry people do bad things to others so they can feel good. When wives are trying to take the men's children away from them, they are doing it so they can feel good. They don't care about the kids. They're looking for a feeling. And they call it love. And they're lying. And so when Jesus was living, he was that example. Exactly what you're going through now is exactly what he went through. But the one thing that Jesus knew that his mama, Mary, and all the people that were following him did not know is that in order to live, you must die. You're never going to be able to live until you die, and you're never going to be able to worship him in spirit, meaning get to know him. Worship means to know him, to appreciate him, to love life. What happened was when he went to the cross, and these preachers were jealous of him. They didn't like the fact that Jesus was waking up people, because they were teaching the Bible. They had degrees. They wore the beautiful robes, but they were using the people with their preacher stuff. They were not setting the people free. So when Jesus came along, they hated Jesus because the people were waking up, and the preachers didn't like it. And so when Jesus finally made it to the cross thing, he didn't really die. The ego died. The ego died. All the thoughts and feelings and stuff died. And then he rose and he lived. And he knew that in advance that what was going to happen. He knew inside what was going on. Like you're going to know when you when you forgive and when you let the ego die. And the way that you let the ego die, you got to stop protecting it, period. Because it's not you. It feels like you. If somebody says something to you or hurt your little feeling and you want to get mad, you should welcome that. When your wife is cursing you out, he ain't going to control me. You look at her with a smile and watch how you're feeling about it. Or when someone is mean to you, watch how you're feeling about it. And if you feel anything, be glad to see that. Be glad for that situation, because it is not happening to you. It's happening to the fake you, the not you. It's happening to the ego. And if you take it and don't complain about it, don't murmur about it, don't be mad about it, you'll die from it. You will die from it. And as you die from the not you, when that disappears, the real you will appear. And the real you is full of love, nothing but love, because God is love. All peace, all joy, and want nothing from the world. You want nothing from the world. You take no credit. You don't look for anything from anybody. You want nothing because you have everything. And you will have perfect peace. And so when Jesus rose again, it's the same thing going to happen to you when you let the ego die. And the world, because it's so nasty and wicked and evil in the families and everywhere, not just, it's giving you a chance to die, but you're protecting the devil. You're protecting the not you. You won't let yourself die. You'll be very careful. You want people to see you in a certain way. You want people to think of you in a certain way. You want to be loved. You want all this, so you won't let yourself die. You cry when pain comes because you don't want the pain. That's not you in pain at all. It's the nature of the devil. That's why I say you got to work on this. You got to work on this by yourself. No one can help you. And it will happen if you keep your eyes on yourself. Wisdom will come, shallow mind will leave, and you would know naturally how to deal with life. It is so amazing. But you got I'm not going to identify with it anymore. I'm going to let go. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm really struggling with the family thing, but
Yes.
I'll save that for another time. But for
No,
now,
you can say it now.
well, you know, my dad raised me in particular to, you know, he instilled in me to never ever rely on a guy. That if I need or want something, to go to him until I'm married. And my brothers modeled that. I have two older brothers. And throughout, I come from a very close-knit family. And, you know, up until this present moment, they've always, my brothers and my dad have always been there for me no matter what. So the part about everyone in their family hates one another, that I'm struggling with that. I don't understand that quite.
Are you saying it doesn't happen, or you
I'm
don't
just
understand
saying
why
I
it
don't
happened, or are you
understand.
saying it doesn't happen?
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but are you saying across the board this is, or what are you saying?
In families, there is no love, no real love at all. And there's fake love that do things, but it's all vanity. If our parents don't have love and we don't grow up with love, it's all vanity. We may stick together, and like my parents, they did the best they could for me too. My grandparents taught me to work and be responsible. That was a practical thing, right? But I still lacked love. I had a good emotional love, but I did not have the love that loved my enemy, the love that destroyed this illusion of myself, the love that caused me to realize there's nothing for me to fight for. You know, the love that kind of love, where I can just live by the light.
Okay, so are you saying that the love that I strongly feel for my family, are you saying that love is not a real love?
In real love, there is no feeling. It just is. It's a being, it's a living being, it's a spirit, right? And so there is no feeling in it at all. And so if you have a strong, when you say strong love, what do you mean by strong love? You can appreciate them, of course, that they took care of you and they provided. Your father taught you to work and be independent. But that's not love. That's just appreciation. Love is when you are a living being. You don't identify with the physical, period, because that's not who you are. Now, you have a body and take care of the body, not like you mess up the body, right? But love is the light. It's a light. It's a nature. It's a natural way of living, without any expectation, any fears, any doubts, any loneliness, any worry. Like if family really had love, you would come out flat on wings. You would never been mean to men. You would never be mean to yourself. You would never judge yourself or other at any point in life.
Okay, so it is impossible then.
I'm sorry?
It is impossible.
It is
for
impossible?
anybody. It is not possible for anyone on the planet then
Right.
to have the love you're talking.
Now that you're waking up, let's say that you're overcoming the fallen state, right? And you should get married. As long as you stay on that straight and narrow, your kids will have love. They'll grow up differently. They wouldn't grow up with fear. They wouldn't compare themselves to one another. They would never judge themselves. They would never try to be like anyone else. They would never be offended by anything, be embarrassed by anything, be shy. They would have perfect love guiding them.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the other question I wanted to quickly ask, what was it that was happening with Jesus then when he was bleeding blood and asked God to take away this cup or whatever, like the burden of being on the cross? Like wasn't that fear that he was
I'm not
expressing?
clear what that was yet, but you know how you feel when you're separated from God? You have fear, you have doubt, you feel the weight of the world, per se. I'm thinking that, and I'm not clear, right? But he felt that for a moment. But he knew that he would rise again, just as you will. If you can see right now that all this stuff is not you, all the stuff you've been thinking not real, you've been living a illusion, you could rise right now and live, because all the fear and all that would disappear and you will have a life. And so I'm thinking that he had that, because I noticed that as human beings, we all have that. When we turn away from the Father, we are not with God. He's not with us, no matter what. It seems as though he's not with us. I'm thinking that's what it was. And so when we turn back to God, all the other stuff disappears. And then we can live. But I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Because I've heard different stories about that too. And I realize now all that I've been taught have been lies.
Okay.
And any ideas about God and Christ would be just an idea. It's not a knowing. But we can know God. We don't just have to have a belief. A belief doesn't work. Everybody say they believe in God, right? But yet they're miserable. We want to know him.
Right.
And we can know him. And that, no one can take that away.
Final question.
Yeah,
Final
no,
question.
no problem.
So to get to the point where we're not, for me, to get to the point where I am unaffected, is the path to that forgiveness, silent prayer?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's what I want you to do. Stay with the prayer, and whenever the ego feels something, fear or shame or doubt or worry, or somebody may talk about you, you don't want to go around because you're afraid they're going to talk about you, or whatever it might be, let that happen to the ego. So that's carrying your cross. You're going to the cross. And on the cross, the ego will die. But if you protect that by not wanting to feel ashamed or feel embarrassed or feel like nobody likes you in the crowd, if you protect that ego, you won't make it to the cross. You won't get there. Stop protecting the not you. And don't care what anybody says. And the only reason that it bothers you or me or anyone, right, is because I believe here. and I feel here. I believe the thoughts, I feel the body. So the real fear is inside of you. It's not out there with them. It's in you. They have their own fear. But you'll think that they are making you afraid, but they're not. That situation is causing your ego to feel it. But if you didn't have it in you, you couldn't feel it. You can only feel the ego pain if it's inside of you. But when you shed it, you can't feel it because there's nothing there to feel.